All right. I just watched a video by Crap Gamer, and he talked about these two controllers. I think there's a couple things he might have left out that I would like people to know and want to cover. Let's go over this Xbox One controller. All right. For one, he didn't mention the D-pad. While he may have mentioned that it's improved over the 360, but let's be honest. This thing is intended alone for menu selections. It's got a clickiness to it, and it's better than 360, but not nearly the best I've seen. Like it's just so analog. It's going to be really good for flying through menus, but in terms of playing a 2D game like Ori on it, or a fighting game like Mortal Kombat, I mean, just listen to this. It's back, forward, forward, back, down, forward, down, back, half circle. I mean, it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't sound good. It's just not intended for 2D games and fighting games and such. They pretty much expect you to use the analog alone. Another thing is that these analog sticks are very loose. It's not like the 360's analog sticks at all. It'll take some getting used to, and to this day, my aiming isn't quite as... I can't fine-tune my aiming quite as well on this controller. It's difficult to explain, but I prefer a little bit more density to my sticks. These are probably the loosest analog sticks I can remember using in recent memory. They're good for certain things, and they hurt me for other things. So, pros and cons there. Another thing I'm surprised he didn't mention were the bumpers and trigger. The trigger specifically, I think this is a huge pro for this particular controller. They're very padded and have a really nice feel to them. If you just listen to this, it's nice and padded. It's hard to describe the feeling, the difference between a normal controller, but it doesn't have that plasticky feel. They're really dense and nice and padded. They feel really good. And now, one thing that's love it or hate it is these bumpers. Well, they're much clickier than ever before, but one thing people often mention doing is rolling your finger over it. So you never have to take your finger off the trigger, you know? Like, you just kind of roll it on there. Like, I'm not actually doing this, I'm just kind of bumper jumping it, you know? Also, the sticks aren't like as easy to click in. I actually kind of like this, so you don't get too many like jerk panic knifing, like, oh shit, there's a guy, and you don't accidentally panic knife too easily. They're kind of a little denser and harder to push in. The buttons are a little curved, as with any Xbox system. I prefer the PlayStation's flatter buttons, but you know, whatever. These buttons are a little smaller than I'd like them to be. But whatever, you're not going to be using them in a pinch many times anyway. He mentioned the light on the PS4 controller, the DualShock 4, and how annoying it is, but the PS4's controller isn't always in your face. This one is, and it's pretty bright. Like, it's brighter than given credit for. I mean, and it's always going to be in your face. The PS4's is on top here. You barely ever see it. If you do, it's more like it's indirect lighting. This is very direct. So take it for what it's worth there. And that about covers it. Oh, I do want to mention one more thing with this controller. You must buy AA's or a battery pack. I bought rechargeables since I already had the recharger, and those seem to work well. Also, in order to use a headset, you need a proprietary connection here. So no generic headset that uses an aux cable will work. So what you have to do is buy one of these things, and then you have the aux jack. Alright, so what this costs, I mean, it's nice because you have these little buttons for quick access on volume control, party, game chat, and a mute button, but this thing costs $25 to $30 for this plastic piece to plug in and use other headsets. It's ridiculous. Add to that the cost of the controller, which is $60. Add to that buying, like, say, a battery pack or rechargeables. This controller to make it fully functional costs over $100 for the same sort of features you would get out of the box with a DualShock 4. And this D-pad, now let's move on over to the D-pad. For $60, you're getting a fully featured controller out of the box. It doesn't come with the cord to charge it. That actually comes with the PS4 itself, but whatever. It's micro USB, so even if you lose the cord that came with the system, it's very easily replaceable. These sticks are a little more denser. I already covered a lot of this stuff. The sticks are denser, got a more rubbery feel rather than a plasticky feel. The buttons are flatter. I like this options button being closer to the buttons here, the face buttons, just for easy access. Like in a Battlefield game, I can check my score real quick, and just slide right up there. You barely have to take your thumb off the square. That's pretty nice. The D-pad this is one of the best D-pads, if not the best D-pad ever made. Sony deserves major props for the way this D-pad is designed. It's phenomenal. He mentions pointless features. I mean, better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Like, maybe they drain battery, but the battery life is not 3 hours. It's more like between 5 and 7. I would say 6 or 7 if you dim the light. Here's an example of the light anyway. So the lighting, say I'm playing like this, or even like this, the lighting is very indirect by comparison. So, I mean, is that really annoying? Like, and he says it drains the battery bad. Dude, you don't have the stats to support that. I mean, you didn't put a link in your video. You'd have to find stats to back that up. It could actually be the touchpad that burns a lot of this battery life. So you just don't know. The triggers are a little more plasticky than the Xbox Ones, but they're still very good triggers. The controller itself doesn't have quite as a matte feel as the Xbox Ones, but it's got this carbon fiber feeling grip on the back. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, it's not focusing well. But yeah, it's got these carbon fiber grips on the backside, and it feels really nice to hold, just like the Xbox One controller. They're both nice to hold. And it doesn't have like bumpers that you roll your finger onto. It's not really possible to do that. So you do have to take your finger off, but they're much more pleasant to click, though. They're actual buttons, so you pick your poison on that. But yeah, I just feel like he left some information out and just wasn't a direct or fair comparison. This is going to cost you $60 out of the box. You don't need to buy anything extra. Yeah, the battery life may not be as good as, the Xbox Ones, but you don't need to replace batteries. You don't need to buy extra shit. It is what it is out of the box, and it's hard to complain about that. If you're spending more than 6 hours in a direct sitting without taking a break to charge your controller in between, like say get a snack, just throw it on the charger, If you're playing for that long a sitting, buy an extra controller and keep it charged, dude. If you're playing that many games, get more than one. Like, damn. You clearly love gaming enough to where that would have value. Get an extra controller. And even then, it would still be about as expensive with 2 of these compared to a fully featured one of these. So, yeah, I mean, that should be enough information there to go on. They have some very big pros and cons. I really like them both. It's on any given day. In terms of ergonomics, I could go back and forth on any given day. And it depends on the genre that I play, which one I prefer. If I get a fighting game, I want to play it on PS4. If I get, I don't know. If I get, like a horror game or really any other kind of just action game, I guess, and the Xbox One controller is very pleasant to use. So I don't know if I'd necessarily given an edge there, but there's definitely some genres that are advantageous to play on the DualShock 4, but the Xbox One controller is very competent in all ways, maybe except the D-pad for me, but yeah, that about covers it. Thank you for watching.